All right, straight ahead, let's talk about the rise in romance scams. The FBI says it is on the rise. Victims flirting with fraud on the internet. You won't want to miss it.
Welcome back to Think America with Terry Gilberg.
All right, I'm delighted to introduce you to my next guest, Donna Arp Weitzman, on the subject of the rise in romance scams that we're seeing more and more of on the internet. Why do I know there's more and more? Because the FBI tells us so. Tells us that just last year, losses just on the internet, $16 million due to victims flirting and continue to flirt with fraud when fraud comes to them on the internet. So I want to bring to the air Donna Weitzman. She's the author of Sex and the Siren, Tales of a Later Dater. She's an expert in relationships and in dating. Hi, Donna.
How are you, Terry?
Nice to have you, ma'am. I'm delighted that you could do this topic with us because I've been quite interested in the issue of fraud when it comes to victims of romance. There's an old saying, romance without finance is a nuisance.
well, this one is this particular problem is really growing, and it's growing because of the proliferation of course, online dating. You know, at one time we had, 2 or 3 online services, and now there's just hundreds of online services of different kinds. So along with that comes scamming as well as other things. So there we are.
It's one thing when you see something in your inbox and it's, I'm a Nigerian prince and I am looking for romance and I have the finance and I'm not a nuisance. And so will you come and meet up with me? We'll meet in London, blah, now you go click, right?
Yeah.
It's another thing when somebody hits you in your Facebook and wants to be friends, and then pretty soon is instant messaging, pretty soon is posting on your wall. He looks handsome, he seems fine, and they work you. And they work you for a year. They work you for 2 years. And this is what the FBI is talking about, right?
That's exactly what they're talking about. And, you mentioned earlier that it's up. The complaints are up, and I think we got 15,000. FBI got 15,000 complaints in 2015, and then it went up by another 2,500 in 2016, which is another, 7-8%. I'm doing it in my head, but that's a lot. But just think of the many, many, many thousands that are never reported. That's only the ones that were reported to the FBI. So, and people don't report them because, they're humiliated, they're embarrassed, they're ashamed. So most of the time, people try to hide any kind of internet scam, and especially romance scam that has been put upon them. So there's just many, many more than what we know about.
One of the telltale signs that the FBI tells people like me in the media is that many people that are victims, they just want to be nice.
Well, they want to be loved.
Well, they want to be nice to the person that's reaching out. Oh, I'll be polite, I'll be nice. And true, they want to be loved. And the third element is they want to have hope.
Absolutely.
Because hope springs eternal. You can be dog ugly and sitting at home, 800 pounds eating bonbons, but maybe Prince Charming will reach out to me on Facebook or Twitter or Instagram or whatever. There's always that hope. And then if she's nice, let's say it's a woman, she's nice back to Mr. Fraud, Mr. Deceitful, the devil himself, that's okay because he said something nice into my instant messaging.
Well, that obviously that is certainly part of it, and it's a big part of it. But, you mentioned hope, and in my first book, before I wrote Sex and the Siren, was Cinderella Has Cellulite. And that really is about hope, because we women do want to be Cinderella, and the cellulite part is because we have some problems generally, some kind of baggage, and I call that cellulite because there's nothing we can do about it. But that hope, as you said, springs eternal, and so it keeps us looking. We're always looking for love and companionship, and we do want to be nice, and the scammers take advantage of that. They have there is a profile of scammers, and I don't know if you want me to mention that, but there's several accept.
Well, tell me if I'm right about this, Donna. I was told through reading and FBI quotes that oftentimes the romance scammer say to the potential victim, they're in the building and construction industry,
Right.
and that engages them in projects outside the United States. So they're over there somewhere. It's Europe, or it's Asia, or it's Africa. So they're not around that much, and they're on site, so they don't get to meet beautiful women. That's one of them, right?
That comes down the line. The first thing they do is they have to establish a relationship with the person online. So, they quickly establish that relationship and endure themselves to the victim, by saying nice things, by saying, they have the similar interests that you do. They will ask you what you're interested in, if you like pets, if you don't, and then they will literally mirror your interests. Whatever you're interested in, they are interested in. If you like music, they like music. If you like classical music, that's what they like.
To create
because they
synergy.
Got to endure themselves.
To create synergy, right?
Yes.
Okay, what other profile do we have with the romance scammers if they're not in the building and construction industry? Do some of them say they're doctors, they're CEO, they're IT? Because if they go ahead and give too much, I live here or there, they can be found out more easily.
Well, yes, and what happens once they gain trust through this camaraderie we're talking about and this duality of interest and that kind of thing, then they literally will propose marriage or living together or being near to you or having something physically close. But for whatever reason, whether they're feigning that they're doctors, lawyers, or whatever, construction work, real estate tycoons, they will never come in physical contact with you. And so the way to find out a scammer right away when you're going down that line is make sure once they ask you for something, say no. Always say no, because if they truly do love you or are interested in you, then they still will be. But if all of a sudden they drop you, that you never, ever, ever want to have any kind of contact with them or ever send them anything of value. And that's not only money. That could be, jewelry is becoming one now. Do you have jewelry that you might want me to, I need this. And if you have jewelry laying around you're not using. I mean, there's all kinds of things that they ask
Well, what
for.
astonishes me, Donna, is the amount of money victims give away. It's one thing if you say, all right, I'll take a run with this guy and see what happens. Let's meet in a certain city, and he doesn't have the plane fare, so you send him $1,500. And then he doesn't show up.
One.
And you think, well, haven't you learned your lesson, for crying out loud? But it's $30,000, $40,000, $50,000. There was an FBI report where a woman claimed to have paid someone who was a scammer. He worked on a quote construction project in South Africa. She paid him $42 million. $42 million.
Wow.
I mean, an incredible amount of money. This woman is rolling in dough, inherited money. But all of a sudden that money is gone. And of course the FBI and the accountant is bringing it to her attention, or somebody is, and finally she goes, oh, whoops. What are you thinking?
They have a lot of trouble finding these people too, because sometimes it's a whole, almost like a chat room. It's several people working behind the scenes. But you mentioned money earlier. Just in Texas, which is where I'm from. Just in Texas last year, which was the worst state for internet scamming, for romance scamming, there was $16 million sent to romance scammers, is what I like to call them. $230 million in the entire United States in 2016. That's what my numbers show. $230 million and $16 million in Texas alone. The worst states for internet scamming, of course, it goes everywhere, but the worst states for some reason are California, New York, Texas.
Those are big states, though.
Yeah,
so there's density of population there, too. All right. Take us in the direction of tips so one does not become a victim, other than no physical contact. They never have physical contact with you. And when you say no, that should be a clue. Give us some more clues.
Well, the first thing to do when you feel like somebody's too perfect If they're starting out too perfect and they mirror every interest you have, just remember, too perfect is a lie. And the way to find that out is start researching their background. Because generally people who are internet scammed, whether romance or whatever, generally the victim is pretty internet savvy, or they wouldn't be on the internet. So start researching the background of this person. Try to get a photo and try to match that photo. Try to find their photo online, because a lot of times that's a different person. They use a different photo. And then ask lots of detailed questions, and ask the same question in several different ways. That's always the way to find out if someone's lying.
That is a good tip.
Yeah, where do you live? Well, I live in Omaha. And then the next time you say, what's the weather like yesterday in Omaha? And, of course, you've already checked it.
Yes.
Those kinds of things. So you need to ask trick questions that don't seem like trick questions.
All right. All right. We're wrapping it up there, Donna. Thank you so much. You have a website you want to direct people to?
Donna Arp Weitzman.com. See my book, Sex and the Siren. You can get them on Amazon or at any bookstore. And Cinderella Has Cellulite. They both talk about internet.
All right, Donna.
Romance.
Good interview. Thank you so much. I'm Terry Gilbert.